All right. All right. So today's message is my dog is better than your dog. You guys might have heard this one before. It's an oldie but goodie. I'm revised it. Don't worry, it's not the same exact message, but a couple of weeks back, I was getting my messages together and God gave me like 3 in a row. And I've done 2 of them. This is the last one. I don't know, he just put on my heart to bring up this message. So I'm bringing this message back. My dog is better than your dog. So if you heard it before, hang in there. I've changed it a little bit. I've got some new stuff in there. And it's not just the same old message. So when I say my dog is better than your dog, I know it sounds funny and I'm joking a little bit, but I'm a little bit serious. All right. I got the best dog ever. Okay. He almost can walk on water. He's really close. He should be doing that by next week, I'm hoping. But he's a rad dog, and I am joking, but I learned so much from, I don't have kids. So I learn a lot from my dog and my relationship with God. And God shows me, I know I have a nephew. So God has oftentimes used my nephew in my life. He's 18 now, but there we go. There's my dog, but that's not really him. But yeah, it looks just like him. Good job, Lupe. I like that picture. My dog, if you ever met my dog, if you guys go to any of the outreaches or anything, my dog comes with me. His name's Henry. He's a Labradoodle. He looks just like that, except he don't really wear glasses. I'm sure I could get him to do it. But anyways, that's a rad picture. I like that. Good job. So, when you have kids or a dog, in my case, God could relate our relationships, right? As we look at who we're over, as I'm over my dog, or as you're over your kids and you're trying to train them and you're trying to love them and you're trying to protect them and all that kind of stuff, right? So I also have a nephew named Scotty, and he's 18 now, and I used to get him every other week until he was, until he's been 18. Now he's got a car, doesn't want to hang out with his uncle. I'm super sad. So I have to, I'm just going to get his arm twisted behind his back. I'm going to make him hang out with me one of these days. He does come to my men's group. So I see him every week on Tuesday nights. Some of you guys know him from men's group, and what an amazing kid that is. But this message ain't about him. I'll give you a message about him another time. But I think it's funny, the saying, I like that. I like the title, My Dog is Better Than Your Dog. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I don't know if you guys remember, people go, my dad could beat up your dad. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one. I grew up in National City. We do things different down there. Okay. So, but I just remember that saying. It's funny because I remember when I was a kid, my mom's boyfriend, right? He goes on a field trip with my brother, and my brother's like in 2nd or 3rd grade. This guy was, okay, you'll know he's nuts just by what he does. But so he goes on this field trip with my brother in like 2nd or 3rd grade, and one of the kids looked at him and he goes, my dad could beat you up. And as an adult, as a responsible adult, you just kind of dismiss that, right? But not this guy. His name was Dave. I like Dave. My brother doesn't like him, but I like Dave. And Dave looks at the kid. He goes, yeah, I got a shotgun at home and I'll blow your dad's head off. That's what he did. Anyway, back, I thought that was funny, but it's funny that somebody would actually say that to a 2nd grader, like take them seriously that they are. Anyway, I thought it was funny, but I guess it's not. Anyway, so back to my amazing dog. So here's how I relate my relationship to God to my relationship with my dog. So I like to run. I'm a runner. I like to run. And so I bring my dog running with me as I go running, and I bring the dog. And I'm the kind of guy I don't believe in. I'm a little old school. I grew up in East County, guys. I've lived on a farm. I mean, the whole bit, I've done it up in Ramona and all that stuff.
Same here.
And yeah, right on. So I don't believe in leashes for my dog, right? I'm just not that guy. I'm not carrying my dog on a leash. My dog listens to my voice. And so I go running, I bring my dog with me, and I'll be running with my dog. And so here's the cool thing. This is what I love about running. When I'm running, I can get into this deep prayer with God. Like the entire time I'm running, I'm not even running. I'm like in heaven talking to God. There's nothing else I do in my life that gets me into that space that I can get into while I'm running. It's the weirdest thing. I could do it on a treadmill. I could do it on a run in the desert, wherever I'm at, doesn't matter. If I'm running and I'm praying, I'm in a whole nother realm. It just takes me somewhere else. It's like I'm standing in the throne room of God, and I'm able to just talk to my Father. So I get a lot of downloads. A lot of my messages come from my runs. And so I run this one particular time, I'm running with my dog. And so I've trained my dog to run with me with no leash. And I run on a trail where there's other dogs, there's other people, and all this kind of stuff, right? But my dog doesn't have a leash. So I got my dog to where I snap my fingers, and my dog will go to whatever side of my body that I snap my fingers on. Without a leash, he'll go to, I snap my fingers, I say, Henry, come here. And he knows, and he'll go to whatever side, and I'll keep my body between him and the other dogs as we run by. And I'll say, and all I have to do is quietly, I just say, stay with me, and he'll stay right next to me. And as soon as we get past the people and the dogs that whoever has a dog, I say, go. And he'll just take off running. And he'll just take off running. And so this one time when I'm running with my dog, I don't normally even think about that. It's just something I do. I'm just telling my dog what to do. I'm just running. I'm talking to God. And God is revealing something to me. He started to download something really cool to me. And he goes, look at your dog. Look how obedient your dog is. And so I'm looking at my dog, how obedient he is. And God started to compare my relationship with my dog to my relationship with him. Not that I'm a dog. He never made me feel like that. It wasn't like that. It was more of a father role, or a God is my king. He's my Lord. He's my master. He's my daddy. He's my everything, right? And to Henry, my dog, I'm all those things to him. And so as God's revealing that to me, he's going, look, my relationship with you is a lot like you with your dog. And so he started to compare those things. So what he was downloading to me was two things. Here's the two downloads that I got. Okay. So he was showing me my dog's obedient. And and this is the question he posed to me. Why is your dog so obedient? What are his motivations? Like, you want to be like, because I'm thinking about my dog and I go, man, I want to be like that to you, God. Like God's saying, look at how this relationship you have with your dog, you could have that with me in a different way. So two things he was downloading to me. Number one was, why is my dog so obedient? What are his motivations? And I was relating these motivations to my motivations for being obedient to God, right? This is the same thing. He's going, look, why is your dog obedient to you? And he's giving me this motivation. So first motivation, that my dog, so I know the reasons my dog listens to me. Look, first of all, my dog loves me. He wants to please me. I feel like he enjoys my company. He enjoys me. He enjoys pleasing me. When he finds purpose, my dog finds purpose in pleasing me. He really does. He finds purpose in pleasing me. So number one is love. And so I found a verse for this. So I'm relating again our relationship with God and our obedience to God. Now, here's some motivations of being obedient to God. Why would we want to be obedient to God when it's so easy to live in this world? The world's calling us a million different directions, and God's saying, I'm your daddy, I'm your king, follow me. So why would I be obedient to him when it's harder to do, right? It's not easy for my dog to stay next to me when there's another dog over there he wants to go see. My dog loves other dogs. All he wants to do is play with another dog, right? But why would he stay next to me with no leash when he can go over there and see the other dog? Why would he be obedient? Okay, so number one is his love for me. He loves me. He wants to please me, right? So in John, and this is the same thing for God was relating to me. Well, why would you want to be obedient to me? Because you love me. John 14:15 says, if you love me, keep my commandments. This is Jesus talking. He's talking to his disciples. He's talking to us. He says, if you love me, keep my commandments. Do what I say. Follow my teachings. Follow my words. If you love me, show me. So my dog is showing me he loves me by following my commandments, the commandments of my mouth. Henry, this side. Henry, that side. Stay next to me. Go. He does all of those things. If a car comes, and half the time I'm protecting him. He doesn't realize that there's another dog that's on a leash. My dog's a Labradoodle, okay? He doesn't stand a chance against a pit bull or a Rottweiler. He's a baby. He's a nice dog. And if he was to run up on a Rottweiler and get his head torn off, I'm protecting him, even though I don't want to put him on a leash. And as he listens to my commandments, he's staying under my umbrella of protection. It's the same thing that God's doing with us. Yes, we can go, but he's asking us to follow him. He's asking us to obey those commands. This is what he's telling me. He's going, Bill, I want to protect you. Love me and hear my words and follow them so that I can protect you. I want you to have that freedom, and we're going to get to that. So love is the first one that he showed me. That was the first motivation my dog has for being obedient to me. And that should be my first motivation of being obedient to God, my love. Now, he's done so much for me. God said, if you guys know my story, God's delivered me. I should be in prison. I should be dead. I should be crippled. I should be whatever, right? But God has had mercy on me. He's protected me. He's covered me. He's forgiven me. He's restored me. And I don't deserve it. I do not deserve it. I was the worst of the worst. And God has given me new life. I love him. Okay. I love him to death. He's done so much for me. So number one is love. Number two, fear. My dog has a healthy fear of me. I don't beat my dog. Okay. I would never punch my dog. I would never hit my dog. None of that stuff. But my dog fears me. Okay. So Philippians 2:12 says this. So this is another one for us in God, to fear God. And now let me just clarify thing. We're not afraid, God. I am not personally afraid of God sending me to hell. I'm not afraid of that. Why am I not afraid of God sending me to hell? Because it's an impossibility. Because I have believed in Jesus for my salvation, to be born again. And he says, once you drink of the water I give, you'll never thirst again. He says, all that come to me, the will of my Father is that everyone who comes to me, I will raise up in the last day, and I will lose none. I can't be lost. I've been found. He has saved me through his grace. It's not on me, it's on him, and I'm saved. So I'm not afraid of my daddy sending me to hell. I'm not afraid of my God banishing me to hell. But I do have a healthy fear of God. Just like my dog, he's not afraid of me killing him. There's no way he thinks that if he gets in trouble, I'm going to shoot him or take him to the pound or any of that stuff. He's not afraid of that. He's afraid of my rebuke. Okay. So Philippians 2:12 says, therefore, my beloved, as you have always obeyed, not as, this is Paul talking, not only as in my presence only, but much more in my absence, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. Okay. My dog knows that we're on this run. He has to answer to me. He's afraid. He doesn't want my rebuke. Also, another part of the fear is Hebrews 11:26. This one explains it a little bit better, I think. Hebrews 11:26. Okay, so it's talking about Moses, and it's talking about him passing up Egypt and not being called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. It says, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater than the treasures in Egypt, for he looked to the reward. See, that's what God is telling me in this fear. So my dog, he esteems my reproach more than the riches of being able to go and see that other dog, to go hang out with that other dog, to go do what he wants to do inside. He esteems my reproach greater than that, because he looks to my reward, the reward of my love, the reward of my fellowship, the reward of that I give him. And the same thing with God. And Moses he esteemed the reproach of Christ greater than the treasures of Egypt. So that means that he esteemed the rebuke of God greater than anything that he could have in the world, because Egypt was everything at that time. When Moses lived, Egypt was the richest country in the world. And not only that, Moses had access to the kingdom of Egypt through Pharaoh, through being Pharaoh's son. But he refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. Man, because he'd rather walk with Jesus. He let up the lust of this world for Jesus. And God is telling me the same thing. And so I was relating that fear that my dog has in me. And again, it's not fear of me killing my dog or me getting rid of him. It's the fear of me not being pleased with him. It's the fear of not being in that relationship with me. Because you look at here, when my dog does do bad stuff, me and him have some issues sometimes. Right now, my dog's outside. He's not in the house. He's outside right now because I trust him. He's just hanging out. He's not going nowhere. I give him that freedom. There's no fence. If he wanted to, he could walk all the way to wherever he wanted to walk, but he's not going to do that. And once in a while, a dog, because my dog's not fixed either, once in a while, there's been a dog that's been in heat down the street and he takes off too long and he gets in trouble. Now I rebuke him. I yell at him, not loudly, but I discipline him. I make him stay in the house. I tell him why. And I know that this is a dog and not a human, but my dog understands. You could tell that he's sad, that he upset me. He gets all this. You ever get mad at your dog and the dog gets like all upset, and that's how he gets, because he doesn't want me to be upset with him. He wants to please me. He loves me. And so he doesn't want me to be upset. So he has that fear. And so God was telling me that too. Look, have that fear. Here's the thing. In that first verse in Philippians that I brought up, Philippians 2:12, it said, work out your salvation with fear and trembling, right? Knowing this, that we're going to stand before our King someday. Look, we can't see him right now. We're not standing before Jesus. Jesus isn't right in front of us right now. You will stand before him as his son, not in a judgment to go to heaven or hell. You're his son or his daughter. And you're not in a judgment to go to heaven or hell. But he is going to look at your works. He's going to look at your body of work. He's going to look at your life. He's going to look how you served him. He's going to look how obedient you were. He's going to comb it over, and you're going to have to give an account for the life you live. And so am I. So there is a fear there. I have that fear. I know that I have some things to answer for in my past, and I can't do anything about that. All I can do is do the best I can do now to live my life out the way that he's called me to live it. And so that I can be proud of myself when I stand in front of him, so I can be proud. So that takes me to the next, motivation, praise. My dog absolutely loves when I praise him. I tell him, good boy. When he goes running past, when he stays next to me, as soon as we pass the other dog, I tell him go, and he starts running, and I tell him, good dog. I tell him I love him. I give him that praise and that affirmation. Well, God, we can get praise from God. We can be earning praise from God also, from our dad. We can make him proud. We could be showing up in honor. So here it is, 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 7. It says that the genuineness of your faith, the working out of your faith through trial, the genuineness, it's your faith is being worked out. So the genuineness of your faith, being much more precious than gold that perishes, though it is tested by fire, may be found to the praise, honor, and glory at the revelation of Jesus Christ. That verse right there tells me that as I go through testing, that my faith is being tested to produce something. My faith is going to be tested, and my faith can produce. It can be found to the praise, honor, and glory when I show up, when Jesus shows up and I stand before him. My faith can be found to the praise, honor, and glory. Well, guess what that means? If it can be found to the praise, honor, and glory, it can also be found to the dishonor and shame and rebuke. And I don't want that. I don't want the dishonor, shame, and rebuke. I don't want that from my Father. I want to have the praise, honor, and glory. So in the testing is where, so a lot of times I talk about this in my men's group, a lot of times we tell God, can you just take this suffering away from me? Can you make my life easy? Nobody wants to go through anything. But if we didn't go through anything, would our faith ever be tested? Would there anything to be praised and honor and glory brought from our faith if we didn't have to go through anything? And I'm not saying that what you're going through is nothing, but what I'm saying is that whatever you're going through, your faith can shine through it to be found to the praise, honor, and glory of your Father in heaven, who's watching, and the angels are watching you, and your faith can be found to that. I remember, and I've shared this before, telling God one time, not too long ago, maybe 8 months ago or so, a year ago, and I'm going, God, if I'm suffering and nobody else knows it, what good does it do you? What honor and glory does that bring you? If nobody else knows what I'm going through inside, how does that do anything for your kingdom? And God told me, this is what he told me. He says, I don't care what other people see. Heaven is watching you, and you're my son. So it matters what you do. It matters what you do when you go through hard times. That you're suffering and you're still praising me matters, because the angels are watching. Heaven, you have an audience. We are watching you. And that gave me this comfort of what I was going through at the time inside, that I could walk through it, knowing that I can receive praise, that I can bring honor and glory to my Father in heaven. So that made it a lot easier to go through. And I'm not saying that it's easy to go through stuff, because it's not. We're going through some tough stuff sometimes. Okay, so praise is one. That's number 3. Number 4, and we touched on this a little bit in Hebrews 11:26, reward. So the reward is another thing that, but we're going to go, we're not going to use Hebrews 11:26. We're going to use John, or 2 John chapter 1, verse 8. It says, look to yourselves that we do not lose the things we work for, but that we may receive a full reward. Look, my dog could do so good on this run, and I do. I go to the taco shop afterwards. I get him a burrito, or I get him whatever if he does good. But look, he could do good the whole run, and at the end mess it up. He don't get a burrito. He doesn't get the reward if he messes up at the end. Well, that's the same thing with us. Look to yourselves that we do not lose the things we worked for, that we may receive a full reward. He worked so hard during that run, and he blew it at the end. He lost his reward. Let's not lose our reward. Let's receive that full reward that God has for us. Paul talks about putting his body under subjection, lest when he preached to others, he be disqualified. He's talking about losing out on the reward. He's talking about doing good and not finishing strong. It's not how you started, it's how you finish. Okay, so again, reward is number 4. That is another motivation. So far for our motivations of obedience that God was telling me, this is how you want motivations to be obedient to me: love, fear, praise, reward, and the last one, number 5, is freedom. And that might sound funny, because you're going, freedom? Well, what if your dog ran up and did what he wanted? That's freedom, right? No, because if my dog ran up and did what he wanted, I'd put that dog on a leash. If my dog did whatever he wanted, he wouldn't have the freedom to run without a leash, because I'd have to leash him up. Because if my dog just went wherever he wanted, he wouldn't be able to be outside right now. He wouldn't have that freedom if he didn't handle his freedom. And it's the same thing God was telling me in John chapter 8:32. John chapter 8:32. Oh, he says, let me go one before that. Oh, that's not my page. Okay. 8:32. Let's see. I'm going to go to 31. 8:31 through 32. It says, then Jesus said to those Jews who believed him. So these are believers. If you abide in my word, you are my disciples indeed. So you're not automatically a disciple just because you believe. It's something you have to do. Being a disciple is something you're doing. That Jesus doesn't do that part for you. He does the saving, you do the walking, right? So he says, if you abide in my word, you are my disciples indeed, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. So how are you going to know the truth? If you abide in his word. If you're his disciple, you're not going to know that you could be a believer and not know the truth and not be free. How are you going to be free? By abiding in his word, by being his disciple. That's what God was telling me. So my dog's still my dog. Even if he doesn't do what I say, he's still going to be my dog, right? But he's not going to be able to be set free. He's not going to know the truth. The truth is that there we go, reward and freedom. If he doesn't listen, then his freedoms are going to be taken away. And it's the same thing with us. God wants to trust us. So it happens by abiding and following. Okay, so the second thing God was downloading to me. So the first was why my dog was so obedient and the motivations. And we went through the 5 motivations. The second thing that he was revealing to me was, what are the benefits of obedience? Because I'm going, okay, so what are the benefits? And I'm looking at my dog. This whole thing is going on in my head as I'm talking to God. And I'm going, so what's the benefits? Because so God starts showing me the benefits of obedience. And first of all, I've already found out the hard way where disobedience leads. Okay. So I already know the disadvantages of disobedience, because I've lived a life of shipwreck, brokenness, brokenheartedness, disaster. Disobedience brings disaster. It brings shipwreck. It brings a ruined life. It brings heartache. It brings, and not just for you, but for everybody around you. it affects not just you. It didn't, my disobedience didn't just affect me. It affected people around me. People around me's lives were not as good because of my disobedience. So I already found out where disobedience leads. So let's focus on the positive. Basically, motivations 4 and 5, reward and freedom. Okay, these are the advantages. These are the benefits of being obedient, the reward and the freedom. So as I'm talking to God, right? As I'm having this, I'm noticing as I'm running all these other dogs. All these other dogs are on leashes. Some leashes are shorter than others. Some are on choke collars. There was even a dog on a muzzle, right? And every once in a while I see that dog with a muzzle. Man, these dogs are locked up, right? They are bound. They are tied up. They got no freedom. And all these dogs are on leashes. And I know it's the law, but this is besides the point. All right. Besides the point of the law, having your dog on a leash. I'm sorry. I'm that guy. But so I know it's the law, but besides that point, anyway, so some of them have these short leashes, some of them have muzzles, some of them have chokers, and they're very limited in their freedoms, right? Where my dog's, because I can trust him, because he listens to the sound of my voice, he listens to the snap of my fingers, I can trust him. He obeys the sound. He gets the lay of the land. My dog loves to chase rabbits. So while I'm on the run, I don't have to worry about him. I see a rabbit, he goes running after it in the bushes. I just keep running because I know he'll catch up, right? He sees a squirrel, there he goes. He's chasing that squirrel. He gets to do all these cool things, and he has these freedoms that these other dogs aren't experiencing. These other dogs are not experiencing the same freedoms Henry's experiencing. One, because I can trust him. I can trust him to be obedient because I know he's obedient. So he gets to go in the bushes, he gets to fall behind, he gets to go ahead. And even at home, he gets to go outside and he's not gated, he's not chained, he's not fixed. All those things, my dog has actually experienced freedom. Because of his obedience, he experiences more freedom than others get to experience. And how does that compare to us? How does that compare to us? When we're obedient to God, we're actually experiencing more freedoms because God is, look at, my dog is living his potential. He's living his purpose by being able to do these things with me. Otherwise, other dogs got to stay at home. They get locked up. They get chained up. Well, he's able to live his purpose. And it's the same thing with us. We get to live our purpose when we're obedient. So he has this greater level of potential and enjoyment and excitement of life. We can have those same things. When I was disobedient, I wasn't experiencing those in my life. I'm going to tell you right now, I had really super highs and I had really super lows. Okay. There was some really good times when I was disobedient to God. There were, but it's not all peaches and rainbows over there. You know what I mean? We look and we like to, and we talked about this last week, was remembering the past better than it really was, because we remember those really good times. Like, oh yeah, I remember that time that, but that time you didn't get caught, that time shipwreck didn't happen, that time you didn't get in an accident, the time that, all hell didn't break loose. But what about the times that it did? So anyway, there's this greater level of potential for enjoyment and excitement of life. And God was telling me, hey, you can have that in obedience to me. When you're obedient to me, you gain freedom in your life. Again, in that verse that we read in John, he says, and the truth shall set you free. When you abide in his words, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. I am free. I'm free of the lust of the world. I'm free of addiction. I'm free of all these things that used to bind me, that I was a slave to, that ruled my life and brought me ruin, and that I was unhappy. I'm free of depression. I'm free of all kinds of things. That I didn't have those freedoms when I was disobedient. I thought I was free, but I was really a slave. Okay, so and so even with my dog, I'm able to take him more places because I can trust him. I can take him more places. A lot of dogs don't even get to leave the house. People don't take their dog anywhere. My dog went to 5 o'clock prayer or 5:30 men's prayer the other morning with me, because I knew that he could go in and I could tell him to lay in the corner, and he wasn't going to get up and go mess with everybody that was praying. And he laid in that corner. He comes to all our events. You guys see him. You guys all feed him hot dogs and hot dog buns and all kinds of stuff you don't want to eat, right? And whatever, you guys, cool. He loves you. Feed him whatever you want. Just don't give him any cheesecake, please. Anyway, so he's able to experience these things and go places that other dogs don't get to go. And he gets to do these things that bring him joy and fulfillment. So John 10:10 says this. It says, the thief does not come except to steal, kill, and to destroy. And I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. Look at the thief, the devil, the world is trying to get us to buy into the narrative that the world has something to offer us. But here Jesus is saying the thief doesn't come but to steal. What's he trying to steal, kill, and destroy? Your life experience, your potential, your purpose, all the amazing things that God has for you in your life. He wants you to trade those things in for what the world's offering, for temporal satisfaction. And Jesus says that I have come that you may have life, that you may have a purpose in your life, that you may have a life fulfilled, that more abundantly, that you would have meaning in your life, that when you live this life and it's over and we look back, because we are going to look back on our lives, that we're going to look back and we're going to, and for those of us that shun the world, that gave up the lust of the world and sought God, we're going to look back at a life well lived. We're going to look back at a life more abundantly, a life that meant something, a life that added up to reward in heaven, to co-reigning. Because if God can't trust us here, how's he going to trust us in heaven? If he can't trust us with earthly riches, how can he trust us with heavenly riches, right? So this life we can have that it really is more abundant. But the devil and the enemy and the world wants to steal that from us by selling us a bowl of soup. You know, Esau, remember that? Esau sold his birthright for a bowl of soup, for temporal satisfaction. I love to bring that up because I was selling my birthright as a Christian, because 10 years I lived in sin for 10 years, knowing Jesus, going to heaven, being a citizen of heaven, already owning eternal life, everlasting life, being born again. I lived in sin for 10 years. And I was losing out. I was selling my birthright for a bowl of soup. I missed out in those 10 years. I can't ever get those 10 years back. Thank God that I don't have to live there anymore, right? And I got a new lease on life. And God is restoring everything that the locust has stolen from me. And my life is better than it will ever be. And so I'm super, or better than it ever was. So I'm super excited about that. So I don't know what I wrote right there. So anyways, when I walk in obedience and I give up the lust of the world, I get to enjoy and experience that full life that God has to offer, that true freedom, that true excitement of living in my purpose and design. See, when I was living in that 10 years, I was going after all kinds of these worldly things, but I wasn't living in my purpose. I wasn't living in my design. Therefore, you know what I was? I was depressed, constantly depressed. I was in anguish. I had to stay high or drunk or whatever, or in a party or in a situation in order to have fulfillment, only in the moment to have to do it all over again just to try to find some peace, right? And I don't have to do that anymore. I get it when I live in obedience. When I walk in obedience, I'm living in my purpose. I'm living in my design that others are missing out on by settling for the temporary, right? When you settle for the temporary, like Esau did, the bowl of soup, he missed out on his actual purpose, that birthright that was given to him. He missed out on it, and Jacob got it. Oh yeah, this is a cool saying that I found. It says, life is never made unbearable by circumstance, only by the lack of meaning and purpose. Isn't that true? You know, any circumstance you go through, you can go through it if you have meaning and purpose in your life. If you have God in your life, if you know that there's something better on the other side, you can walk through fire. But life isn't made unbearable by your circumstances, only by the lack. Look, my circumstances were good for the most part when I was living in the world, but I lacked meaning and purpose, and my life was a disaster, right? So yeah, I like that saying. So with this whole thing about my dog and all of that, it started to make me think, how is it that he can overcome temptation that other dogs can't overcome? Because these other dogs, they're jumping on the leash. The owner's like pulling people down and all kinds. You know, you see these crazy dogs and you're going, man, get your dog under control, people. Come on. Your dog's uncivilized. You don't belong on this trail. Dog's going crazy. People are, dude, it's nuts out there. You ever been to a dog park? These people are crazy. Anyway, so how is it that my dog can overcome the temptation that other dogs can't? All those motivations that I brought up, right? 1 Corinthians 10:13 says this. It says, no temptation has overtaken you except such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able. But with every temptation will also make a way of escape that you may be able to bear it. So look at, what is that verse saying? It's saying, look, you're not the only person going through temptation. It comes on all of us. We all have to face temptation. It's common to man. Temptation is common. My dog is going through the same temptations as those other dogs, but he's able to bear it because he's looking to the reward. He's able to bear it. And I stand in between him and I don't let him on if the dog's on my left, I don't put my dog on the right hand or on the left hand side of me so that he's really tempted to go over there. I make his temptation a little less by putting him on, by snapping my fingers and telling him to go to the right side. That way I'm in between him and the temptation. Now, he could still run past me to the temptation. He could still see it. He rubbernecks the whole time, looking back, he's a rubbernecker. But I stand in between him and the other dog to make that temptation bearable for him. Okay, so God makes the temptation bearable, but we need to keep him between us and the temptation. If we stand on the other side of God and temptation is right there, there's no God in between temptation, we've removed him, and now it's unbearable, right? We need to keep God in between the temptation and us. So yeah. I'm finding the more that I run with my dog that he's getting to the point where he sees another dog. Before I still do, but I still do it just out of habit. But I'll when I see another dog, I'll snap my fingers. I'll tell him, Henry, come here, and he'll go to the one side, and I'll say, with me. But he's getting to the point when he sees another dog, he starts to run towards me. Like he starts running towards me and getting on the right side of me that he needs to be on because he knows where he's supposed to be. He already knows what he needs to do, and he's getting to the point where I almost don't have to tell him, which is super amazing. I'm like, dude, God, I want to get there with you, God. And this is where this whole thing was going with me and God. It was like, God, I want to have those freedoms you have for me. I want to hear the sound of your voice. I don't want to make you ashamed when there's temptation over there, because what I have to earn with you, that reward, that praise, that freedom, that only comes from walking with you. And I can't get that from another person. I can't get that from a drug. I can't get that from anything but God. I want to be obedient. I want to be faithful. I want to be that child of his that gets to go on those runs, that he trusts with more. To whom much is given, much is required. But also to him who is faithful with little will be given more, right? I want to be the one that's faithful with little so he can give me more. I want that fulfillment in my life of God sending me. I want to be used by him. I want to fulfill out my destiny and my purpose. I don't want to leave untapped potential on this earth. I want it all. Well, how's that going to happen? It's going to happen by me being obedient, by me hearing his voice. And not only that, recognizing before he even says that I need to get in my position, that I need to stay in position, keeping him between me and temptation. Yeah. So, and then the other thing my dog is doing is like when we're going past the dogs, he's rubbernecking them, but he's almost to the point where right when we pass the dog, he's getting ready to run forward. He knows he's not running towards them anymore. It's like he's almost excited to get past the dog so he could take off running again. And then I let him do whatever he wants to do. It's like he's ready for his victory. Like, yes, I passed the test. I'm done. I passed it. And he goes running around. He's all proud of himself. And so he gets to go enjoy his victory. I don't know about you all, but I want to live my life to the fullest measure. I want to experience all God has for me. I want that life more abundant. I do. I want to experience that freedom that the world hasn't tasted. The world doesn't know the freedom that we have in Christ. They don't know. They think they have freedom and it's bondage. And I thought I had freedom, and it wasn't. So I want that life more abundant. I want that true freedom. So how do we get there? Here's the last question for us. How do we get there? How do we get to that freedom? How can we experience this freedom and fulfillment? The number one way, by training and being trained through God's word and prayer. So we need to be reading. This is what we need to be doing. We need to be getting in our word, and we need to be praying. That's training. That's being trained. Let God train you. He's going to train you in this. We need to be trained. Number two, putting obedience into practice, right? Put the obedience into practice. Do the things that you've been practicing, the things that you've been thinking about, the things that you've been trained in. We need to put it into practice. We don't just talk about it, we do it, right? There's a lot of, I lived in the world. There's a lot of people that talk a big game, and then when push comes to shove, those are the first people that run away, right? A lot of people talk big and there's no action. We need to be putting our obedience into practice. It starts with the little things, right? Little things are important. Okay, they go, well, why is it a big deal if I cuss? Dude, because obedience is important. Practice is important. The little things. Why is it a big deal if I lie? Why is it a big deal if, a little lie ain't gonna hurt nobody? Obedience is important. Put it into practice. Start with the little. What, you really think you're gonna be able to do the big things if you can't even do the little ones? Right? We need to start with the little stuff. Get our house in order by putting our obedience into practice in every area of our life, right? Okay, number 3, one victory at a time. Okay, one victory at a time. It's not all gonna happen. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen overnight. It's one victory at a time. My dog didn't get the way he did on one run. It wasn't one run. It didn't take only one run for him to listen. There was some slip ups in the beginning. It was many runs. It was one victory at a time to where he's being able to do more and more stuff. It's the same thing with us, with our relationship with God. What we need to do is start getting some of those wins under our belt. Some of those little, like I'm talking about, those little things. Get some of those little victories. Dude, you don't have to go for the big victory right away. We need to start accumulating the little victories, and then the bigger ones, and the bigger ones. Start having victory. One victory is good, and then go get another one. Get a little head of steam, like a snowball rolling down a hill, gaining traction as you start to have victory. Look at training, reading God's word, waking up in the morning and reading God's word and praying. It's not easy to wake up a half hour early or hour early, right? And read God's word. But you do it one day, you got a victory. And you go, okay, I did that today. I got a victory today. I prayed for a half hour. I read for a half hour this morning before I went to work. I got suited and booted before I left the house so that I could put my obedience into practice once I left the house, right? So there's the little victory. There's the victory starting off right in the morning. I'm having a victory by setting my alarm and not pressing snooze and getting up and actually breaking out my Bible, even though I don't feel like it. I'm having a victory. It starts with that victory. So start with, and then it's easy. Then I get out in the day and somebody cuts me off and flips me off, and I give a wave and a smile, right? I pray for them. There's another victory. I just built a second victory. I'm not honking my horn. I'm not trying to get nobody pull over. None of that, right? I'm having a victory. Then I get to work. The customer comes at me sideways. I'm polite. I take $50 off the bill, whatever, right? And I had another victory. I showed Jesus. I was the light. I didn't fall into the darkness. I didn't fall into the pit. So one victory at a time, get ahead of steam and allow that to gain traction. All right. So that is the message today. I hope you guys got something out of that. It really is cool to have a dog or a kid, because we could learn so much. So here's a question for us that we have, and I'll answer it first, and let's see what the question is. What's an area you need to be more obedient in order to experience more the freedom that God has for you? Okay. So, all right. So I'll be up front. I need to be more obedient. An area I need to be more obedient is in my finances, my spending. All right. I want something, I just go buy it. And that's not being obedient. God has asked me to be obedient in every area of my life and to take everything seriously, right? And I know God doesn't want me to go just For example, I went to a wedding on Saturday. I went out and spent $300 on shoes and a shirt and a pants. I already had all that stuff and a belt. But and I'm not saying you can't spend money, but this is an area God has been telling me. And so I'm not, if don't feel condemned if I'm telling you and God's not calling you that area and you're good most of the time and you got whatever. You work out your salvation with God. I'm working out mine. Where God's speaking to me is he's telling me I need to be more obedient with my money because he's calling me to. He's calling me to be more obedient with my money. And I could be a little frivolous at times. I could, whatever. That's where I need to get more obedient. And because I want to experience the freedom. What freedom do I want to experience? I want to experience the freedom that God has for me financially. God is waiting for me to be obedient with the little so that he could give me more. I sit here and I ask God to bless my business, to bless me financially, to prosper me, and then I'm not faithful with what he's given me. Am I really looking for him to bless that and give me more if I'm not being obedient with what I have? So that's where I need to be more obedient. Anybody else want to comment on that question of what God is asking you to? Lupe, can you put the question back up there? I forgot what the question was. Sorry. What's an area you need to be more obedient in order to experience the freedom God has for you? So anybody else want to chime in on that?
For me personally, it's